right. Good evening. It is the Game AI Show. It's that time again. It's Wednesday evening at 6:30 Pacific time. Adjust for local times by looking at your clock. That'll tell you what the time difference to where you are is. Today we're going to be playing a game called Sunless Skies. Sunless Skies from Fail Better Games is a fairly recent kind of full launch. It's been in early access a little while, but I think maybe last week it came into full access. It's now at like a 1.0, and I enjoyed the crap out of So Fail Better Games is arguably best known, I guess, for a game called Fallen London. Fallen London is a really interesting browser game, kind of MMO-ish in some ways, kind of interactive narrative-y. It's a really cool game, and you should check it out. In that, so the setting is kind of this kind of Call of Cthulhu kind of Victorian London that's been absorbed into the underworld kind of thing. And everything's a little bit kind of 45 degrees to the normal universe. So that's Fallen London. Then they made this game that was kind of roguelike-ish, and it was a game called Sunless Seas. Kufa's in the chat right now saying, was Sunless Skies made by the same people who released Sunless Seas? It is. So Sunless Seas is kind of roguelike, and you controlled a little steamship, and you could kind of wander around doing missions and doing things and trying not to kind of... I think there was like a horror meter or something like that that was kind of... there is this kind of background of like gothic horror-y type stuff going on. So today we're going to be playing Sunless Skies. I've never played this game. In fact, I can press this button, and you should be looking at my desktop. You can see that I've put 6 minutes into this, and all of that was sat staring at the title screen. It was trying to figure out audio settings and stuff like that for doing the stream this evening. So I have not played this game yet, so let's dive into it. So if I press that button, actually I want to be over on this side of the screen. And probably want to full screen it. All right. So it looks like we've got a few people watching, so feel free to shout out if the audio mix is a bit weird. Looks like maybe the game's a little bit loud right now, but I can't really tell just by looking at the level, so I would love some feedback, and we can tweak it about. Patch notes on the side here. This is the note to go visit Fallen London, so this is driving stuff across to this kind of free-to-play web browser MMO thing. That's actually kind of cool. It's worth a look. But let's jump on to the new game. Do we want a legacy campaign or a merciful campaign? Let's go legacy. If we die, we probably want to create a new captain simply to explore like what the PCG system can do. So I don't think we need mercy here, although I'll probably regret that in about 10 minutes. Aiming assistance. Only a few player weapons arc towards target. I think I'm going to put everything on the middle setting, and that should create a nice, easy kind of. The point of this stream is not to prove that I'm the most amazing game player ever, which is good because I am not. I am a content tourist. I like putting things on easy and just going for it. So I'm going to go middle of the road, everything on about medium, and let's see how we get on. Sending out your scout will cost supplies. I don't know what a scout is. Don't know what supplies are. And hopefully there's going to be a tutorial, else we're going to be really blundering around. Also taking a while to load. So I'm going to be paying attention to the exposition here, so I'm probably not going to be speaking too loud. I might try and read it. So our expedition to the domains of the dead has been eventful. The Orpheon is damaged and in grievous need of repairs and supplies. We are returning in haste to the Reach, where I hope to make port at New Winchester. May God be with us for 1,000 deaths await in the sky. Final entry of Captain Amelia Charity Whitlock, DCM, written shortly before her death. Cooper's asking in the chat if this is anything like Sunless Season. My gut is that it probably is. Wow, that's loud. I'm going to turn this down a little bit in my ears. And shout out if you think that the levels do need to change. So we've got on-screen tutorial here. We've got a bit of forwards. Cooper says it's very loud, so I'm going to crank it down a little bit on the audio mix on the stream. Let's see how that is. So I can turn left and right, backwards, forwards. So this is feeling very Sunless Seasy. We have returned to the Reach. An untamed, sunless span of the heavens, London's new frontier. A celestial garden run wild. Dodge left, dodge right. Alright. Your journey from the Blue Kingdom was tumultuous. Your locomotive is crippled. Captain Whitlock, badly wounded. I thought it just said that she died. So I'm assuming the momentum system feels really nice, actually. But I am assuming that I'm burning maybe that blue gauge's fuel on the left there. Hey Cappy, how you doing? So, the big question immediately is like, are these levels laid out procedurally or are these generated? And it's the question that I pretty much ask within 5 minutes of playing anything. So much to the relief of your stokers, you find a barrel of fuel among the detritus. And we've got up to 2 here, so this is fuel. I guess I can mouse over shit, so ox crates in hold. And that's my hull strength. And this is currently my terror meter, so this is kind of measuring the kind of horrorness. So the wreck of the Ozymandias. The wreck hangs in the sky, popped with recent gunfire. You and the boarding party don your sky suits. Garments of waxed canvas lined with felt to protect the cold of the sky. 2 of the crew are whispering as they dress. What business did Captain Whitlock have in the Blue Kingdom anyway? Why the devil did we trespass on the districts of the dead? You silence him. Now is not the time. So one of the things that was true of Sunless Seas is that there were kind of these light, interactive narrative choice pointy kind of mission-y type things. And you know, Fail Better Games is known for this kind of thing, so we're going to leap across to the wreck, and here there's not actually a choice, so we're just going to do it. So this is very much feeling like a game led over the top of what Fail Better actually does really well, which is kind of these interactive narrative, branching narrative kind of things. And maybe if we have enough time, if this game is not super consuming, we'll dig into Fallen London as well. So you jump. Your stomach lurches with vertigo as the stars blaze above you and below. The airs of the heaven is thin and torn by unpredictable winds. Then your boots hit the running board of the Ozymandias, and your leather-gloved hands fumble for a hold. One of your companions throws you a line, and you lash the two engines together. Only then do the rest of the boarding party follow you. One of them forces open an exterior hatch, and you clamber inside. So it's really interesting the way that this kind of unfolds as like passages and kind of, you know, there's pieces to it. And if Stacey was around, I'm sure she would be able to say more about this. It's actually going to be probably interesting to get her take on this, which will almost certainly pop up on the Cerebral Arcade channel. Shout out to those guys, or her, I suppose. Give them a follow at twitch.tv/Cerebral Arcade. Looks like Cuppy's been playing Apex Legends. I'm really interested to hear how that is. I've not had a chance to play it yet. But from what I hear, it's like out, and it's free to play. So here we have an iron skill. Iron is the skill of confronting and overcoming, and we have a 75% chance of success there versus a 75% chance of success using our veils. Veils is the skill of deceiving and evading. It's equal chance of success, so let's go for cool. Well, we failed at that. The rest of the boarding party follows you without enthusiasm. You recall the first time you climbed outside of the engine, helping the captain fix a leak in an exterior pipe. The wind had shrieked, buffeting at you. You asked the captain what would happen if you slipped. You fall, she answered tersely. But where to? She looked down, then up, then back. The sky's depths spiraled all about you. Away, she said, and you heard her fear. Back in the present, you tumble back into the Ozymandias through a shattered window, your party spilling after you, teeth chattering, eyes wide with that familiar terror. You've gained 2 terror, so this is our terror meter on the left-hand side. And at 10, we are currently untroubled with nightmares. So we're now inside the Ozymandias hold, and we can now conduct a thorough search, which we maybe ought to have done to begin with. And that's going to generate 4 supplies and gain 15 hull. So that's going to bring us up, it looks like, to max hull strength. So we find enough food and gear to restock the supplies and enough spare parts to make the necessary repairs. So the writing here is really kind of good. So that's really fun, but it doesn't make for necessarily the most engaging stream in the world. Oh, there's more to it, shit. So the Ozymandias emits a long, juddering creak. Your boarding party exchanged nervous glances. From the chaos of its hold, you have retrieved repairs and supplies and discovered some useful equipment. A gun that could be mounted on your locomotive, and an educated bat. So we can mount the Jerusalem cannon on the Orpheum, or we can liberate the diffident bat and employ it as a scout. You can claim both this and the bat. Alright, well, we also get the other thing. Deathbow's pointing out that my shirt looks electrically charged, and that's because it's kind of green, and I kind of didn't have chance to get change coming in from work today. Oh, this is the other thing. So I get to also take the bat as well as the gun. So I have a bat, I have a gun. Well, why would I not do that? But yeah, let's press on to the engine room, see what else we've got. Send a smaller party ahead to retrieve the fuel, or go yourself and conduct a hasty search. So this is a 49% chance of mirrors versus a 49% chance of hearts. We failed a 75% chance, so that's not feeling great. Let's go ourselves. Failure. Boo. Alright, so we lost 10 hull, but we're still up 5 net. Yeah, so I guess I'm green screening my shirt a little bit against the green screen, which is a little bit not ideal, but that's where we are. So, but I got a gun. I think that might be the gun there, maybe. Okay, let's have a look. This is my hold. I have that. I have that. I guess I'm jumping ahead. Maybe I ought to actually just follow the tutorial and stop. Stop jumping ahead. Press F to send out your scout. Your brat returns in what you can only describe as a right mood. It must have found something. Cool. Where? Ah. Oh, hang on. I guess I'm under attack, but I've also got an advice thing. So I'm getting a really nice kickback effect off this gun. So everything is kind of very momentum-y. But if I come to a stop and then fire, I don't really know why I'm shooting at this person. Let me get rid of that. The walls of the captain's cabin are lined with a hodgepodge of curios from across the sky. Captain Whitlock lies in bed. Black marks cover her skin like a monstrous brand. When she coughs, coils of acrid smoke pour from her lungs. That doesn't sound great. Combine that with the fact that as part of the intro it said that, you know, shortly before her death. It's not looking good for Captain Whitlock. Her mouth is blistered from the blue fries that dance on her tongue. Her hand grips your arm. Her skin is hot as a kettle. Made arrangements, the Orphean will be yours. Her voice is just a rasp of burned meat breath. But promise? She breaks off to scream a word in a language that was not made for human mouths. When she resumes speaking English, she is weaker. Her request a little more than a gasp. Promise me one last service. Promise. Well, I mean, like, that doesn't sound super great, but sure, why not? She sinks back relieved. All in my will, she gasps. Be a better. She breaks off as the sigils burned into her bones flare, glowing a cherry red through her flesh and skin. Better captain than I. The effort exhausts her. She sinks back into the scorched pillows and a twisting, frantic fever. So, not super great for Captain Whitlock there. And we'll head off, and now I guess we own this thing now. Or we will when she dies, I guess. There's something floating here. Let's take a look at the chart before we move on. So there's a station there. There's a transit relay, which is where we started from. We've come up and round to here, and it looks like there's a station over to the, I guess, to the west. And this looks like something to pick up. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like the mix is picking this up in stereo. So this is coming very heavily from the left. It's taught me that R is the scavenge button, but there it is. It needs to be a lot closer. You approach the buckled wreckage, poised to plunder the plunderers. Behind you, someone is humming a song of victory. Raid the remains. Marauders pillage homesteads and hunt travelers across the reach. They often carry stolen valuables, or strip it for repairs. We could do with the plating stuff. Let's raid it. Why the fuck not? 33 sovereigns. That sounds good. Don't know what a sovereign is. I'm assuming 33 of them is more than one. Alright, so we need to be headed to the west. So That seems to be presenting itself as a path here. Given the way that this is playing out, given the way there was that barricade and kind of the way the tooltips are framing it, it's feeling like this is probably not a procedurally generated level. And that's kind of part of the course. You would expect that kind of new user experience is kind of more of a curated kind of thing. It definitely looks like I should be coming in for a landing here. And R to drop. So R seems to be the interaction. Kufa says that if it's like Sunless sees, it's sort of generated. That's probably a really good assessment. My gut is that your first map would generally be, or your first area of your first map would be fairly well curated. But what we'll probably do is see. I'm assuming that it's not going to be super long before I die for the first time. At which point we can back out and see what happens when we play through again. You coast into the bustle, the din, the soot, and the steam of Wolvesey Station. But this is interesting because this actually says that it's New Winchester, and then the text is calling it something else. So that's a bit of a mismatch. It's clogged with other engines, scrappy mining locomotives from Lustrum Way, weathered explorers gleaming with frost, sleek company vessels with bright brass fittings. No sooner have you pulled into the sidings than a brusque station master bustles over. He requests to come aboard. I must speak with your captain, he insists, brandishing a ledger. The usual formalities. And then the doctor shows up at the at your shoulder. So I'm assuming, yeah. So Captain Whitlock has just passed. Okay. So, the crew exchange bleak wordless looks. The Orphean itself feels suddenly more empty. The station master looks confused. You inform him that, unfortunately, Captain Whitlock has just passed. He says neutrally. Sorry to hear that. Very sad, very sad. He waits for what he considers an appropriate minute and a half before continuing. Alas, even amidst the tragedy, the cogs of bureaucracy must turn. If Captain Whitlock is deceased, the station authority requires their answers from the first officer. He dons a set of spectacles and locates his pen. It will be relatively painless. Name, background, purpose of visit, etc., etc. Shall we begin? So this feels like it's the opportunity to kind of frame your character, describe your background, this kind of stuff. I'm assuming this is kind of effectively a character generation phase. Yeah, here we go. So we're going to create a captain now. We can be a whole bunch of backgrounds. So street urchin, a soldier, a poet, an academic, a priest, a sailor, a ministry auditor, or a revolutionary. And this is going to impact, it looks like, your kind of core stat. So you've got high veils, high iron, high hearts, high mirrors. High hearts, high iron, high mirrors, high veils. So every one of the core skills or core stats looks like it's being represented by 2. In honor of Kufaku, I think we are going to go for a Zayla. You rove the mournful, merciless waters of the Untersea. And did we smuggle or explore, or did we buy and sell? We'll go with smuggle, maybe. And then wealth, fame, or the truth. What does winning mean to you? I think I have to follow my heart on this one and go with the truth. And then avatar selection. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this. That one actually looks pretty decent. Definitely gonna go with that. Dr. Luke D as the name, because we all know that is actually how I roll. Not recently, about a year ago, I got offered Dr. Luke at Zynga.com, and I thought it would be fucking hilarious for at least a couple of months, and then everybody would think I was a complete dick. So I did not take them up on that offer. Alright, 3 weeks have passed, and now we are... I mean, we're reading the will and doing the burial 3 weeks later. That feels a little bit... Alright. This morning, Captain Whitlock received a simple memorial service. Her body was consigned to a necropolis train bound for the Serene Mausoleum. What's really cool about this, just stepping away from reading this narrative for a second, is like, I don't have a fucking clue what is happening here, and yet the writing is kind of creating a tone, and it's kind of evocative of the kind of show don't tell kind of thing. Like, I'm getting a real vibe about stuff without it actually there being any explanation about it. So going back to it, now you sit with a handful of her relatives in the threadbare offices of her solicitors. A methodical notary is reading the will. The captain was wealthy once, but squandered her capital on mysterious expenses before her expedition to the Blue Kingdom. The captain's relatives, from whom she was mostly estranged, are clearly wondering why you are here. In a final codicil, the notary announces, Captain Whitlock confirmed that the possession of the Orpheum was to pass to its first officer. He peers at you with dry grey eyes. This includes a certain black box containing the Orpheum's hold. Captain Whitlock's final request was that, at a time of your choosing, you transport said box to an address in London. He hands you an address card and deposit it there. You are not to look inside. She gave no explanation. And that's it. You're captain now. The Orpheum is yours. So Captain Whitlock's legacy. You can investigate the black box at New Winchester. You could take the box to London as requested, or you could sell it and be done. And we got 100 sovereigns. So that's immediately kind of framed a kind of long arc quest, it feels like, because I don't know where London is in relation to where I am, but it feels like it's probably a long way away. And it's not necessarily the thing to kind of do. So, exactly, Kufa's saying, you know, you've been given a goal, and I think that's right. Like, you kind of picked, as part of your character creation, you picked, like, this aspiration, and now you've kind of been given something that feels like it's either long or medium term, and I'm assuming that in here we're actually going to get, you know, this looks like a station control panel. I guess somebody here, an opportunity. This looks like a very classic kind of short-term quest kind of situation. So let's go and investigate that. Excuse me, Captain. A woman pushes through the crowds towards you. She is short and square-shouldered in a neat black suit and polished shoes. She shows you the case of her pocket watches embossed with the crown and hourglass of London's horological office, the body responsible for ensuring time is consistent across the empire. I'm hoping to book passage to Port Prosper, she says, slipping the watch away. I can, of course, pay. Offer her passage. Pay sounds promising. So there you go. That's going to be a new passenger. The locomotive I was on broke down following a boiler rupture. The chief engineer's fault, I suspect, a gentleman fonder of brandy than of diligence. Here, an initial sum to seal our bargain. Prosper lies to the west-southwest of New Winchester. Not that there is such a thing as north-south, or indeed west out here. Instead, London cartographers picked 4 of the brighter, more reliable stars visible from the Empress's new palace and named them north, east, south, and west. Londoners value familiarity. So we have a fastidious inspector. We have 50 sovereigns, so we're up to 183 sovereigns, and it really reinforces that 33 was not a big number. Looks like Liz and Ryan are tuning in as well. This is actually, chat is jumping tonight. It's nice to see everybody turning out. So, we're still in this station. We've got this quest here about an ambition for an old friend. We can investigate the black box. This is where the kind of, it feels like it's got some very big throwbacks to the kind of Fallen London interface, and it's kind of, there is definitely like this procedural-ish interactive narrative piece that's the game within the game almost. So let's explore the city, see what happens. Sure, let's learn about some trading. A porter at the station advises you to visit the nearby pub, the Promise of Days, and talk to the seasoned captains there. They keep their ears to the ground. They'll know about an opportunity or two. So, let's go visit this. Sure, let's introduce ourselves to the seasoned captains. Those, that was who we were told to go talk to. So this is feeling like there's kind of this gentle fatuity that is not in your face, and it's not really kind of like beating you over the head, but it is guiding you through and kind of introducing elements like the fact that, hey, go to the tavern if you want to trade. So we've got 4 seasoned captains. The Masked Citizen, a libertine, polymath, and pioneer of the neo-nocturnal artistic school. Try saying that 3 times fast. The bedeviled didact, a scholar haunted by his discoveries. The plucky baroness, explorer, collector, philatelist, and spatchcocker Megs, who hunts monsters. Jesus, these are not easy words. But again, like, it's the writing behind this, and I forget the guy's name. I believe one of the lead writers, or maybe even one of the founders of Failbetter, is a guy. Oh shit! I want to say Alexis Kennedy, and really just some phenomenal writing and kind of phenomenal like creative direction in setting this amazing tone that just is such a kind of not Orwellian, the famous horror author dude. Somebody help me out, please. H.G. Wells? No, not H.G. Wells. Come on, chat. Somebody help me. This is going to bother me for the rest of the night. Whose kind of style is this? I'm going to keep moving on while I try and figure it out or remember it. So we can ask the old captains about making fortune through trade. Looks like Kufa's out for the night, but thanks for showing up, Kufa. Good to see you. Probably see you around at some point soon. So we're talking about trade and how to make a fortune through trade. So we can, we're effectively, because we're being framed as a first officer stepping into the role of captain, all of this contextually makes a lot of sense. So having kind of these elders to ask about markets and how we can buy and sell and how we can kind of frame these things nicely is kind of useful. I'd not noticed that this was a kind of thing here. All right, I'm going to stick in the main window, but clearly something's happened over on the left here. So we asked about markets. Let's ask about prospects, because the biggest port in each region has a bazaar where captains do business. There you'll learn of people at other ports prepared to pay over the odds for a commodity. When you accept the commission for a prospect, it's yours. No other captain will pursue it. It's all fantastically civilized. You'll have to source the goods yourself, of course. Find a port that exports them. The client will want a certain amount. You can supply some or all of it, but if you provide all they need, they may furnish you with an additional reward. So prospects look like they're kind of almost like an order board, or like a trade quest. So that's kind of cool. So all of these kind of are fairly well established tropes within kind of either the kind of elite kind of space or within kind of the more kind of casual interfacey kind of space. So let's see if any of them know about a prospect. I assume that this first one is going to be fairly straightforward. A broker in Port Avon is selling cheap seeds. Let's start from the top. First paragraph. The host at Magdalene's needs an urgent delivery of seeds, paying a pretty penny too. If I were you, I'd get to the bazaar straight away, put my mark against it. The broker in Port Avon is selling cheap seeds. Chirpy chap, God knows why his face looks like it's pushed through a mangle. So this is an opportunity. Port Avon lies to the east of New Winchester, and Magdalene's lies to the southwest of New Winchester. So we can... Oh, and there's more stuff. Shit. Alright, ask about bargains. So this interface is a little bit opaque in that, like, there's stuff to scroll to without it being obvious that you need to scroll. None of this is particularly kind of... I didn't actually read that about bargains. Visit the bazaars of quieter ports can find all sorts of limited supply. Bargain won't hang around forever. Find bargains at any minor port's bazaar. Bargains have finite supply and duration. So a bargain, I guess. Bid them goodbye. Let's move on. So bargains, it seems, are cheaper and prospects are the opportunity to sell for more. So if anywhere that you can actually match those two and supply a prospect with a bargain is going to be a win. And that feels like the kind of hint that you were given for this first one. So I've got an ambition thing here, and that feels like it's going to be tied to kind of my character development. So this probably is something that's worth picking up right now. So we're going to go and meet an old friend who is an earnest mariner. So that's tying back to my my origin story as a sailor. We served together above the Pimpernel, sailing the dark Untersea from Port Canelian to Wither, from Iron Republic to Venderbite. Which all sound like really places that I should probably have heard of, maybe, but I guess maybe not. The two of you served under several captains before saving enough to seek captaincies of your own. You kept in touch, leaving messages for one another in twinkling ports scattered across the sea, meeting occasionally in London to share stories of narrow escapes. The sky was a new sea to her. When she arrived in the heavens, she immediately bought a locomotive and set out again. She is captain of the Azazel and associates with a group of seasoned captains who gather at the Promise of Days here in New Winchester. Perhaps you can find her there. Ambition, the truth. Your old friend associates with a group of seasoned captains that you were just talking to but didn't actually discover this person because you did these things out of order. You're a dick. So I guess we're going to go back to the Promise of Days. Visit the Promise of Days. Inquire after the earnest mariner, because now that we've got that kind of we fired that counter that says that we know about that, which means that we can unlock that in this interface. She speaks of you often, the plucky Baroness says. I'm afraid you've missed her. We've all been missing her recently. Busy girl, but she's doing important work in London. The bedeviled didact frowns darkly and fingers one of his amulets. We've been assisting in our own small ways, but, well, she'll want to explain herself. She left a letter for you. Meg pulls a crumpled envelope from the pocket of her patched coat. I'd open it somewhere private, or someone, she glares at the masked citizen, will try to read it over your shoulder. The masked citizen nods unapologetically. It's true, I'm a disgrace, so that's cool. Read the letter elsewhere in New Winchester. So let's continue. Let's go elsewhere. And having gone elsewhere, we should be able to read that letter now. Here we go. Privately, you examine the letter. The earnest mariner's handwriting, never neat, is clearly hurried. There are several unfinished trains of thought angrily struck through. She writes coyly of having embarked on a journey of the most fundamental discovery and having uncovered celestial secrets. She says she wants to discuss her progress with you, but does not say where or when. The envelope contains a collection of unfinished crosswords cut from the newspapers. Decode her hidden message. She always hated crosswords, and the phrasing of the letter is stilted, as if she had to use certain words in certain places. There is a concealed message here, you are certain, and the crosswords are key to it. So, you need 2 savage secrets to decode the hidden message. We have no savage secrets to it, as far as I'm aware. So we're going to have to go and do something to generate savage secrets. So this was This is actually making me even more convinced that this is built on top of the same engine as the web MMO that I keep talking about. This idea of kind of secrets being a currency and earning them through activity in one place in order to spend them to kind of uncover other shit is very common in that Fallen London game. We should probably... I would like to investigate the black box, but I don't want to open it at this point. So I can't open it anyway. I don't have enough stuff. Let's try and remember where Captain Whitlock actually got that box. So Captain Whitlock had it brought on board just before your ill-fated expedition to the Blue Kingdom. It was empty then, you know, because you saw the lid and the box carried on board separately and assembled in the hold. It's not empty now. It is sealed and even heavier than before, but you left for the Blue Kingdom shortly after the box was delivered and made no stops on the way. So whatever is inside the box now, Captain Whitlock found in the Blue Kingdom. And I think there was a reference earlier to the Blue Kingdom being some sort of like Village of the Dead type thing. So I don't know what that means. Let's consider what to do with it. So that's just revisiting the idea that we can take it to London or we can do something else with it. And that's kind of like the power of this kind of engine, is that the way that they're semantically representing the back end seems like you can actually have a lot of freedom and a lot of kind of agency over how you interact with these things. You know, they are... I'm pretty sure they're doing some fairly complex stuff with like counter tracking to figure out like, have you done this before? Have you done that before? But also they're using some very kind of key currencies like savage secrets. So overhearing stuff and gathering things, intelligence in the world will generate secrets. And so effectively, rather than knowing specific secrets, you effectively get to a world where you're literally just keeping track of a currency called secrets, which kind of provides a bit of an abstraction and a simplification over the top of this thing, but it allows them to streamline things in a really neat way. So there are no carvings or inscriptions on it. The join where the lid meets the body is too thin to admit even a knife blade. There are no holes by which light or air might find their way in. It's impossible to see inside without opening it. Even the keyhole has been engineered in such a way as to prevent peeking. The recess with the keyhole, though, as far as you can determine, that it is a more recent addition to the box. The stone has been drilled and chiseled away to create space for a modern metal lock. And I don't want to sell the box. I don't have the right stuff to get in the box. So perhaps not. Let's come away from the box. So this is probably going to lead me through some sort of fatui to about crew recruitment. So we're recruiting the incautious driver. I specialize in test driving, but I'm looking for something quieter. The driver indicates a crashed engine still smoking. Like that, without the screaming. So this is an officer, and he's going to require a sign-on fee. This is going to get a chief engineer who's going to increase iron by 6, hearts by 2, and affiliation with the establishment by 1. And it's going to cost 20 sovereigns, so we're in a pretty good place for doing that. So let's do that. So we've now got a passenger, we've got the incautious driver, we have a quest to go, we have the long arc quest to go to London, we've got a quest that was to the west, I believe, and then we had this trade quest that is to go somewhere to get seeds and then take them to some other place. So let's see if I can bring up the journal there. I'll just Just 1 second, because my headset is running out of battery. It's amazing how doing this 2 hours twice a week flattens the fuck out of my headset. So, yeah, so the trading opportunity. We didn't actually accept the prospect at the bazaar. So we should do that. We've got... That one's completed. So we've got 4 quests on the go here, but let's head to the bazaar. And we want to do this Seeds for Magdalenes. So 3 seeds are going to complete it. This isn't giving us the note about where we could get cheap seeds from. So, well, I've closed that, and I think I didn't want to. Is that going to bring it back up? Yeah, okay. So let's go talk to those seasoned captains again. Port Avon is what we're trying to find. Port Avon lies to the east of New Winchester. So I think it's time for us to go back out into the world. So it did say that the concepts of north, south, east and west were not standard. But with that said, it feels very much like they have to be the usual cardinal points, else why would it even be a thing? So I'm going to send out the bat and see if we can find that. Alright, we found a couple of things. So there's a transit relay out there. That's not what we were looking for though. Wait, no, that's a platform. That's the transit relay. Okay. Well, it said to go to the east, so we'll just do that. Yeah. Keep dodging into him. That's going to end poorly for me. Yeah, dead. Alright, so randomly picking a fight, not a great idea. But this is kind of the I was going to say joy, but joy's the wrong word. But this is kind of what this kind of roguelike is all about, right? So what's going to be interesting is not all is lost. They managed to reclaim Orpheum. Spatchcock reclaimed locomotive. The bank after funeral expenses passed on what was left from their estate. Though possibly inaccurate, a copy of your predecessor's chart was discovered. When all this is done, you'll be a wiser person than the previous captain started out as. Okay. So we get to reset our person, but I'm going to roll the same and see where we get to. Sure. Well, while this is coming up, I'm also gonna. This author thing is bugging the shit out of me, so I'm gonna actually go look it up. Lovecraft. That's who I was trying to think of, not H.G. Wells. H.P. Lovecraft. Fucking right letter. Very different kind of thing there. Okay, so we are back, and we are in the New Winchester. We've still got Captain Whitlock's legacy. We've still got the truth. We don't have... We can recruit this guy. We've got 81 sovereigns, but I need 20 to hire him, so let's do it. We can pick up the Fastidious Inspector. So this was this is the quest that was in the first time we visited here. So these seem like they're actually like set and curated. So I'm just going to flick through kind of what we went through in this initial flow of discovering how to talk to people, where to talk to people. We know what a bunch of this stuff is. We want to do that. We want to do that. We want to ask about prospects. We're going to want to get the trading opportunity. Then we're going to want to bring up the bazaar. Claim that opportunity, and if we close out the officers panel and bring up the journal, that's going to give us the ambition of the truth, the Fastidious Inspector transport quest, the trading opportunity, Whitlock's legacy. I think this puts us back pretty much where we were before I was shit. So, all right. Yeah. Oh, I think it. Unlocked. So, if I bring up the map. It's a chart, it's not bound to M. So effectively what I'm feeling like is that this whole section here was fairly Fatui-ish. And this arriving at that station was kind of where the rails started to get relaxed, I think. So we don't have much terror at this point. We've actually got quite a bit of fuel. So I'm not going to start shooting at this guy. I'm going to see what happens. So what's interesting there is that character seems completely unguided. There doesn't seem to be any intention around the way that they're... Your bat is pleased to announce it found absolutely nothing. So it's always strange to me when I see NPCs moving around without kind of any pretense of... There's something over there. Without any pretense of kind of intent or even trying to look like it's intelligent behavior. Because at that point, like, you almost want to think, like, what's the point? You know. Right, we're headed in the right direction for that question mark. It's over here somewhere. You know, I can understand, like, patrol behaviors. I can understand kind of general movement, but I do just. I wonder about NPC behavior that isn't kind of in any way directed. So this idea that kind of like story elements get put, the way that they're done is like put on the map and it's part of the UI is actually really interesting. So that is something to crave. What the hell does that mean? Right, well I can dock here. Settlers who live so far beyond the edge of civilization relish the hardships of solitude. They will fiercely defend their small territories, but occasionally welcome company and trade. This homestead is almost hidden beneath the growth of wild sprouting foliage, as if it were the victim of a fairy tale curse. The flora of the Reach is difficult to tame, and the settlers that dwell here are struggling. We could trade them some munitions, but we don't actually have any munitions, therefore our best move here is to leave swiftly. Our terror has reduced. So there's a station up north of here. So let's head that way. So again, like the fact that you're not getting like any sort of map or anything really is really interesting. So this is the Nowhere Inn. Maybe that red mark is what something I can dock with? Or maybe it's not. Ah, that looks like a full station. Alright, that's Port Avon. So Port Avon is what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and dock. Let's disembark. An oily-faced, black-haired girl waves your locomotive into position. Welcome to Port Avon, she calls as you disembark. A rich knot of scents greets you. Leaves and wood smoke enriched by an infrequent but pungent intrusion of goat. Port Avon welcomes new visitors, but your novelty will wear off the more time you spend there. When you visit in future, you may need to bring something to keep them friendly. Your Port Avon welcome is now 3. So again, this is another example of something that is effectively being exposed as a currency in order to allow you to understand how to kind of modulate it. So that's kind of cool. So let's continue. Write a port report. That's sure. Were it not for talk of smugglers and sky beasts, you could easily confuse this place for a village on the world you left behind. It's quite peaceful here, apart from some fuss over a newspaper delivery. The villagers frown and change the subject when you ask about it. Hand your port reports in to the indolent veteran at Victory Hall or the prudent secretary at Company House in New Winchester to earn rewards. So we can go to the shop. Let's go to the bazaar. And we can buy some seeds as a bargain. So we're going to want 3 seeds, and that's going to cost us 75 gold. Sovereigns, sorry. We have 111 apparently. At least I think that's what that is telling me. Looks like it is because it's now set 36. So we've got the 3 sacks of seeds that we need. We probably ought to We got a note that supplies were running low. Can't afford any more supplies, so not going to be doing anything there. Don't want to sell. Alright, so I guess we're not doing that. The fastidious inspector approaches you in the galley. Captain, good day. I noticed your ship's clock had stopped. Perhaps you'd permit me to repair it. Sure, why not? She gives a grateful flicker of a smile and sets to work. Soon she has the back off the clock and has spread tiny cogs across the galley table. Obscure horological tools gleam brassily among them. Everything has a place. And the fastidious inspector has a round-faced, brown eyes and short, dark hair. She gives the impression of being perpetually busy. Inquire about her work, discuss the reach, compliment her skills. So when you ask about her work, you get, it is of fundamental importance that 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in one corner of the Empire occurs at the same time as 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in the opposite corner. How is an empire to function if it can't agree what day it is? Unfortunately, the process is complicated by the fact that time is less reliable than it was. The hours trade has seen to that. So this is also another great example of like weird exposition that kind of like, okay, cool. So it's telling you that time is weird here, and already you're getting the sense that like trains in the sky means that maybe gravity is weird. Like there's a weirdness around all this. So we can ask for news of London, and the seat of the Empire lies in far-off Albion, where a man-made sun burns in the sky. Another sun blazed there once before her renewed majesty conquered it. So this is kind of setting exactly the kind of tone, but also it's also giving you that guidance that London's a long way away. London sits in a coat of smog. Courtiers squabble at the foot of the throne of hours, hoping to receive endowments of years. Meanwhile, hard-working civil servants labour to ensure everything runs as it should. Was there a touch of archness there? All is normal. I miss her, though. There is no city like London in all the skies, and Albion is very different from the Reach, much more civilized. So let's ask about the Winchester War, because this is the second time there's been a poke about that. There are those that feel that London is a long way away, and that they do a better job of governing themselves. The frontier attracts independent spirits. We call them tacites for the hobnail boots that are so practical out here. London unsurprisingly disagrees. The Windward Company earnestly represents Her Majesty's interest in the region, sometimes very earnestly indeed. The tacites call London loyalists stovepipes for our hats, I suppose. She avoids looking at you. And Captain, where do your sympathies lie? With London, with the tacites, or you feel no loyalty to either side? I think, like, that's being a neutral party is probably the right way to go about things here. So hopefully she's going to fix the clock, which is apparently broken. Meanwhile, I believe... Let me bring up the journal. We're going to Magdalen, which lies to the south-southwest of New Winchester. So south-southwest of New Winchester is going to put it in this ballpark. Some wreckage here to recover, and I don't know, like, that could be I don't think that was there when we came through. We got a fuel out of it, so that's cool. So it does kind of speak to this, like, you know, the systems that back this are exposed in a very kind of intricate and subtle way, such that it's hard to tell what the actual, like, underlying system actually is, just from a quick glance. That feels like a really broken NPC right there. It'll be interesting to see, because that's the same one as before, it'll be interesting to see if others exhibit more intentful behavior. So if we come around this corner and head on a heading sort of like that, that's kind of south-southwest. Alright, well, that's also a wall. Looks like it might be passable. Yeah, it is. So that's like a bridge. It's a little bit unclear as you come up to something like that, because it's got a very flat kind of almost orthographic view down. The fact that that was a 3D projection that kind of actually came up wasn't immediately obvious. Let's send out the scout and see what's doing. So there's something over there and it's in the right direction, so let's go out, and this does not look right at all. That NPC looks... maybe not. I was going to say it looks like they're actually acting more intentionally, but then it almost feels like they're kind of doing almost a random walk within a designated patrol zone. That feels weird. It feels like there should be more, you know, particularly running into walls. That's not giving me a sense that these are intelligent characters that I can engage with. And I think that's the intention. Well, maybe not the intention of the AI system, but you know, I think that I'm supposed to feel that this world is inhabited by other captains, and that, you know, we're all kind of trying to bumble and make our way around. So we've come across a wreck. We have a 20% chance of success if we do that. I'm inclined, like, 20% is not high, but if I only have lost 2 health, so I can get 2 health back, or I can go for something cool. So let's go for something cool. And that didn't work, so we got 15 terror for a total of 25. And just based on the kind of Lovecraftian, now that I remember which author it is, or I actually found out, looked it up, let's say remember, you know, this idea of terror as this gauge is actually kind of very in keeping with the thematics of Fallen London. So we've got a solid crate here. Okay, we have a barrel of unseasoned hours. This is the final product of London's greatest and most precious enterprise. So there's a lot of these references to kind of time being a commodity, but it is kind of very, very much framing it in a in that same kind of show don't tell kind of way. Oh shit! That guy's just got super aggressive. Ah, dodged the wrong way. he going to leave me be if I get far enough out of this territory? Yeah, it looks like it. So, I mean, that sort of suggests that the NPCs are almost like... That sounded like a gunshot, but I didn't see anything. Definitely sounds like cannon fire off to the left. And I don't know if we are now considered to be... I guess we're south-southwest. Unfortunately, we're headed towards that gunfire. Cannon fire, whatever. So I think we're about to... Yeah, this is not great. Looks like the port is over here. I want to get engaged with those guys though, because I am not good at the shooting. Alright. So, Magdalene's is the closest thing many Skyfarers have to a home. It offers services to alleviate the strain of a life spent too close to the stars. But I think we want to go to a shop. I think we want to go to the bazaar, and we want to fill this order for seeds. And that's going to give us 240, 150 experience, and we completed the thing that the captains told us about. So we've got a bargain here for carefully packed crate of munitions. We know that the those settlers that we ran across are looking for munitions. So this is already starting to, you know, the world and the lore of the world, and kind of even some of the ways that terminology is used are, you know, the lore of the world is defying expectations in that, like, time is this kind of tradable commodity. And that makes you kind of stop and think and kind of... it's actually something that was given to us in, maybe second year of AI back at University of Edinburgh, back when I was a snot-nosed undergrad. The exam question was framed in such a way that it was effectively a logical inference problem. But because the story that it told was actually orthogonal to what you would expect the story to be, nouns had been swapped around, adjectives were being used as nouns, and the entire reason for doing that was to kind of throw you off the scent and make you actually struggle to think about it. But one of the things that I found at least, and I'm finding it here as well, is that because things are slightly at maybe not even 45 degrees, maybe even just 20 degrees. Like, you know, you're buying and selling things that you wouldn't expect to be goods. You're collecting secrets. You've got kind of currencies that you wouldn't normally expect to be currencies. And as a result, you end up in a world where you're kind of effectively having to pay a bit more attention, because these are not how you expect. Things are not how you expect them to be. So I can buy... What the hell am I carrying in the hold that's taking up 9? I've got a barrel of unseasoned hours, but that weighs 5. I wonder if I can sell that. So let's go to Beatrice's exchange and let's sell... Seems like they don't want to sell that. So I've got this thing. I'm going to buy 2 packs of munitions that are on bargain here, because I know where we're taking them. And And then I'm going to go to the Beatrice Exchange. I'm going to get 1 supplies. So the weight on the munitions is also 5. That's why everything is a bit weird. And that's going to give us a pretty solid kind of next step is to go and trade those munitions. I kind of don't want to get into another quest arc here, so I'm just going to bail out and let's see what's doing. So I want to ninja around here and not get involved in that fighting. Well, I say that, but oh shit, I don't know what he hears and I'm getting the fuck away. Maybe. Nope, wow. He looks like a bad time. He looks like a very bad time. Alright, well, that's another thing that we've survived. A repair at that station would probably have been a good idea. So this is, this is a really good example of how, like, AI as a concept is kind of intrinsically tied up in almost like systems thinking. This is not going to end well. Maybe it's not too bad. Alright, though. Actually, it wasn't too bad. Okay. If in doubt, go in a straight line and dodge a bit. So, what do I mean when I say that AI and systems are kind of tied together? Like, effectively, like, the systems of the game are how AI can express itself. So we talked last week about Redshirt, and how the NPC logic in Redshirt was very kind of heavily driven around. I am going the right way, right? Yeah, it looks like it. Around matching the systems that the player was interacting with, so that we could understand we had a perceived mental model of that looks like maybe something to explore. Or maybe not. So if we represent our NPCs and we build our decision logic in the way that the player's state is presented to the player through the UI, then they actually have a good mental model of like how those decisions might be being made, and what specifically the things that we're trying to. I'm about to run into that wall. What specifically the things that we're trying to kind of infer based on how the AI system is acting. So that's really powerful. Here, what we're finding is that there's a pretty interesting framework that's kind of being uncovered as we go along. And there's almost like a social hierarchy to discover, and there's a lot of really compelling things to it. But at the same time, like, a lot of it is being presented as oh, I forgot to examine this letter before, so I should do that now. Cool. Right, that's what was I coming here for? Well, let's see what this. Oh, so this is a bank mechanic, and effectively it allows you to put stuff into storage and pass it between iterations of your playthrough. So onwards. So that's cool. So it's interesting the way that kind of additional mechanics are being kind of introduced through this kind of system. Let's repair, because how much are we going to spend? Whoa. Oh, you need 24. Okay. how we move stuff into this in the profile. How do we move stuff into the bank? Because that's what I would like to do. Ah, here we go. Bank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and sell these hours. So the engineering doesn't want it. The market. Oh, will take it. So we can sell that for 80. And we paid 40 for these munitions, but we can sell them for 60 here. But I am very interested in how much we can sell them to that settler for. So even something as simple as kind of the push-pull of the bargains and the prospects kind of sets up this ability for the game system to very easily it's south from here. To very easily kind of manage its state and update the world and keep kind of creating this fresh content effectively by kind of having this ability for things to get traded and where those kind of those effectively sources and sinks, where they are and kind of move you around the map. So there's opportunity for a lot of interesting things to be happening here. Is it under the direction of some kind of greater intelligence, or is it random, or is it curated? You know, with a couple of, what have we been? We've been going an hour and 25 minutes now. There's no way to really tell at this point. I've got some theories. It was the other side of this island. No, it wasn't. It was... where the hell was it? Was it down here? I think it was here. I'm surprised we didn't get a map marker for it. But hopefully I'll be able to find it, because if I can't, then I'm just walking around with these munitions for no reason. And that doesn't seem like the best time. Maybe it was here. Or here. Was it against this island? Oops. Well, I'm out of food, so... I'm going to start heading back to the port. Was it here? Nope. And also probably shouldn't run into the... Alright, well I can trade them in up here for 60 and make a profit. it's really fascinating the way that kind of like you've got this basically, you know, I could imagine this being just a straightforward browser game, and that being the end of it. But at the same time, like, I guess we only bought 2, but that's profit of 40, so that's pretty cool. If you have at least 1,500 sovereigns, you could even buy a new locomotive. Well, we don't, so not going to do that. But we can get a new gun. So if I bring up the... So we've got the Jerusalem cannon, but we can get, well, we can't because we can't afford it. We can get that guy. So that's a blunderbuss, so that's going to feel shotgunny. That allows you to run a cannery on board, and there's actually some interesting stuff here. It looks like the fact that you can outfit your the way you can outfit your thing. Let's actually go and look at what the new so for 432, oh no, that's how many I've got. I would need 1,500, and I could get I could trade in for one of these, which is slightly more robust, has an extra steering wheel slot, an extra heavy weapon slot, but loses a normal weapon slot, I think. Oh yeah, able to mount a heavy weapon. So there's some trade-offs there, but like the trader has a bigger hold, but smaller crew, and then if we had 19,000 sovereigns, we could get this guy, which looks like it's one of the. It looks state of the art, but in terms of like armaments and stuff, it's not actually. This is suggesting that like the highest thing to shoot for is not massively differentiated in terms of equipment. It's not like there's like a massive kind of equipment spike in terms of the level up. That said, we are only looking at the first station. Could be that there's something more out there, but 20,000 coins effectively is it feels like a lot, given that after an hour and a half of play I've got like 400, and I'm measuring it in like 20s and 40s in terms of my profit. Also, so I'm still moving the fastidious port. You are to escort her to Port Prosper. Port Prosper lies to the west-southwest of New Winchester. So west-southwest is here somewhere. So let's go and try and do that. So R to undock. Close the journal maybe first. R to undock. Ooh, very stupid because I am out of supplies, so I should back up, dock up, and get some supplies, else I'll starve my crew to death, and that will just end poorly. So I will buy maybe 2 supplies. We've got 3 fuel. We don't seem to be using fuel super quickly. So the tuning around kind of these consumptions is probably kind of been carefully. I would like to think it'd been carefully kind of set up, because that feels like currently like your major sink is just the amount of coins that you need to drip in order to continue to effectively continue operation. So there's almost like a base kind of income level that you need to be maintaining in order to kind of be... Let's shoot out the scout. This is more kind of southwest at this point. So he's just tagged in that, which is a platform. Not what we're looking for. So we're looking for Port Prosper. And it's supposed to be west-southwest of New Winchester. So we're in the right ballpark. So we're currently at 27% terror. Skyfarers, exposed to the haunting light of the stars, are prone to sudden obsessions and erratic behavior. A junior signaler is discovered in the hold amidst a pile of dissected books. She is cutting out words and grouping them in clusters to represent a new system of linguistic categorization. Narrative is preposterous and occlusive, she informs you. Meaning is the only sensible foundation for classification. You examine her arrangements. The words light and law sit side by side. Nearby, conjunction, philosophy, and faction huddle together. So I can spend a additional supply to try to get them back on track. I can confine them to quarters, or I can get them back to work, and that looks like it's going to be a hard roll. It's going to be 15% chance of success. I do have an extra supply. I'm looking for a port right now. The port will be able to give me another supply. So let's actually go ahead and kind of choose this branch and see what happens. We've reduced terror. We've lost that one supply. Your engine is loud with song and laughter. The sky shanties are perhaps a little lubricated, the humour laced with a touch of mania, but for now the fears of the sky are forgotten. A passing cantankerry grumbles through the cold night. It tuts at the bright, glaring warmth of your windows. It flicks a disapproving antenna at the noise and the hour. When you've passed it by, it is glad to have the quiet and cold of the sky back. So these kind of random events are also interesting. Like, I'm not sure what triggered that. It could have been a roll, it could have been something that I did somewhere else, but clearly there is kind of this simulation system operating in the background. And that is giving a very flavorful kind of like approach to the narrative. That was actually pretty cool. So if I just hang out there, this lighthouse is actually casting a proper light, and the shadow is really, it's not the most clever thing, but the fact that it's doing anything at all is kind of interesting. There's a wonder over here. I don't know what that means. The inscription on the memorial to the unknown rat is dedicated to those brave Ratus Faber who gave their lives in the early exodus to heaven. You found and benefited from a wonder, one of the most pleasant and least menacing landmarks of the high wilderness. Wonders immediately lower terror when you draw near them, so long as you haven't visited too recently. Sometimes it's worth taking a detour to include them in your routes. Cool, not exactly what I was looking for, but that's kind of cool. This kind of rat statue. Koof is saying that starving usually ends poorly, and that's very true. We're running low on supplies. It might actually be coming up for being worth taking a detour and actually finding somewhere to stock up. Let's pay the price for that. It has nothing to report. We're in the ballpark of west-southwest of New Winchester. smells like a lighthouse. That might be marking something. So I'm gonna pay for another bat, but if it doesn't return anything, then I actually have to burn pretty hard for new Winchester. Okay, bat has nothing to report, so Kufa's asking how I'm liking it so far. Actually, I'm really into this. There's something about, like, I've always loved the Fallen London setting. As a universe, it's really, really interesting. I still, on occasions, do use the terminology delicious friend that I picked up from Fallen London. It's not one that I recommend too strongly, particularly with people who maybe are not familiar with the terminology, because otherwise it just sounds weird. But at the same time, like, it's a really interesting kind of roguelite, I guess. And the trading elements really scratch an itch that kind of got, you know, frankly, Elite Dangerous in particular, but sorry, not Elite Dangerous, Elite Frontiers, Elite 2 from the old days. We are almost out of supplies, and are we going to make it without it going horribly, horribly, horribly wrong? Maybe. So Elite kind of presented me with that itch of, like, trading and different stations to go to, and kind of the idea that different stations had different missions, and their stock, sorry, not stock, but their trade markets were dynamic and were reactive, and kind of like the fact that you could bring things from one place to another and kind of trade on the margins and kind of get an advantage from the arbitrage, and being smart about how you did that was such an inherently fascinating game mechanic to me. So it's a mechanic that I have continued to love. I played EVE for the best part of 5 years, and was very much in the kind of trading and civilian life of the EVE universe. And honestly, like, from a data science point of view, like, a lot of kind of the places that I cut my teeth as a data scientist, although I didn't realize it at the time, were kind of things like EVE Online, where, you know, I was building predictive models against the EVE player market, which is a very dynamic player-driven market system. But because there's a whole range of APIs that allow you to hook into that whole ecosystem, you end up in this world where you could build any kind of tooling against that. So some of that was, we were doing in-world counter-espionage using what is now effectively graph database techniques. So, you know, it's speaking to something that is fairly core to my, effectively to my personal identity, I guess. And it's very simple in some ways. Like, you know, the onboarding to this game was not super hard. It was this bit of, like, hey, this is how you steer your ship, and this is how you fight, and now here's how you kind of interact with people in this kind of browser-based game kind of way. Alright, that's Young's found. And all of that really speaks to me pretty directly. Like, I don't think that these NPCs are done particularly well, and I wonder if there is actually a reason for that. that is just like an in-universe reason that hasn't been explained. And that's, you know, it's totally possible. Ah, well, these people want munitions as well, but I think this is a different homestead. I'm going to send out the bat again and see what's doing. So that distance, like, it feels like there ought to be this Port Prosper. I don't know, west-southwest would maybe be here somewhere? Alright, we found something. Something there? That's not something that we... So this is... So all of the settlements that we're discovering are looking for munitions, which I don't know how I feel about that. Because that feels like it shouldn't be the case. I might be looking in the wrong spot here. Kufa says that he doesn't think the Sunless Skies market is ready for me. It's totally fine. I used to pretend to be a data scientist, and now I just have to be a manager, and I don't actually have to do anything. That's a lot safer for everybody. So when I got offered a role as a data scientist, one of the first things that I had to do was ask, so what's data science? That was an interesting conversation. They hired me anyway. So this feels like an area that you could call west-southwest of New Winchester. The supply cost of sending the bat out is it's kind of challenging. So there's something over here. Hopefully it's the thing that I'm looking for. I've forgotten what it even is I'm looking for. You are to escort her to Port Prosper, west-southwest of New Winchester, I guess. I guess this could be west-southwest. It really depends on how fastidious you're feeling about your ordinal directions. But we will loot this wreck since we're here. So there's a 20% chance of success with this. But if it's only a signal, that feels like it ought to be fairly low risk. Well, cool. So we got some extra terror, but we got some more supplies, and that's going to be good. It would have been better to have passed that roll, but I'm not actually sure I have passed a single roll in this playthrough. I'm hearing gunfire in the left ear, so I'm going to see if... Oh, he's a big boy. Okay. Shit. Why is he shooting at me? Oops, that was the wrong button. What the hell is a gravestone? Alright, there's a station over there, but let's see what this is. Requires a saying. Do I have a saying? Apparently not. Alright, moving on. A rumble of far-off refineries, distant searchlights rake the sky. This looks like it's going to be some sort of port. This is Port Prosper. So this is what we were looking for. And I think I just leveled up. And deliver the fastidious inspector. Okay, perhaps not. How do we talk to the... She was supposed to be fixing my fucking clock. How... Here we go. Well, I don't know how to talk to her. So I'm just going to deliver it. And that should get me some extra shit. So again, 3 fuel, 3 supplies, and 150 coins. And... Cool. Alright, so that feels like a fairly good place to kind of start winding down. We're at 1 hour and 51. So I want to take the last kind of 10 minutes and just talk about kind of some stuff. And also, I'd like to throw up Fallen London, actually. So I will continue from there. What the? Oh, I'm missing some... quest text here. So thank you, Captain. Here is the balance of our agreement, and as promised, a requisition order for fuel and supplies. She casts another glance at the incomplete clock tower. Given the apparent state of construction, I'd recommend you visit the work site. There may be an opportunity there. And thank you for the pleasant conversation, Captain. The sky can be a lonely place. You enlivened it. I've included a small additional sum in your remuneration as a token of my gratitude. They plan to call it the Albert Clock in memory of the departed Prince Consort, but there's a way to go yet. The roof isn't finished and the clock neither ticks nor bongs. You can see the fastidious inspector up among the workings with a spanner and a can of oil, showing the workmen how it's done. I can ask the horse foreman what they need. Bronzewood, 1 consignment. They sell it at Traitor's Wood and Polmere's and plenty, I hear. And a gourd of chorister nectar too. This bunch of work-shy ingrates needs constant shouting at, and my voice has given up the ghost. Some nectar should have me bellowing again like a champion. Carillon's your best bet there, or Titiana, the Flower Town, will pay. Be warned, the materials aren't cheap and they'll occupy space in your hold. So that Bronzewood actually was offered as a sort of opportunity to trade in response for, in exchange for some of the munitions. So it's probably going to be worth taking some of those munitions and going out and finding one of those settlements again. And with 5 fuel and 5 supplies, we've got a pretty good chance at that. But it's not what I want to show you right now. What I want to show you right now is, let's press that button. And in fact, let's not press that button. Let's press that button for a second. Let's press that button. And let me now so I don't want to just show you my entire desktop because that probably has some shit I don't want you seeing on it. So I'm just going to bring up Fallen London so that you can see what's going on with this. I have no idea what my Fallen London login is. So I'm going to try one more thing and then I'll just create a new account. And meanwhile, while I'm doing this in the chat, oh shit, I do know what my... Huh? All right, I guess I know my account passwords. But I don't. There we go. That'll do. So I've got to. I think they must have changed some of their narrative profile stuff because. Let me add that and let me go to that. Nope, that's not right. Let me go to that, but make it this size. Okay, there we go. So you should be able to see my entire desktop now. And we're starting out with a story. So we're unjustly imprisoned. The view from your cell is magnificent. Fallen London far below. You've come so far and you're so close. No prison can hold you now. Hello, delicious friend. Like I said, this delicious friend thing keeps coming up. To find out who you are and why you're here, escape from the prison. Concentrate on escaping. Get out of here first, worry about the view later. Go. You are now preparing for a daring escape. Onwards. So, you're a watchful gentleman. You're a persuasive gentleman. You're a dangerous gentleman or you're a shadowy gentleman. So, I think this is character creation again, but let's say we're a watchful gentleman. And so my watchfulness is increasing. So I'm going to escape from Newgate Prison. With a final struggle, you wrench the bars free, squeezing hastily through the window as the supply dirigible approaches. So we can go to... You're in the city to uncover its deepest mysteries. Ladybone's Road is the best place to start, a place to be watchful. It's work, you, wine and song are the pleasure of the underworld now. Work later. It'll be easy for someone as persuasive as you. So again, it's giving you a strong option to kind of cater and specialize your character. And you can see that those specialisms are actually on the left here. So I'm inclined to go shadowy. I've got +1 to shadowy and I'm not entirely sure why. So let's do escape to spite. So we've moved to a new area now. You've just arrived in Fallen London. The dirigible spirals slowly down over the smouldering lights of Fallen London. The cavern breezes of the Neath pluck at your clothing. You cough as smoke and acid fog drifts up from the dark streets of Spite. As the dirigible passes the spire of All Christ, you leap to safety. You clamber down into the shadows of Spite, avoiding the nests of bats and ravens. And what's really interesting about this is that you're probably already recognizing that, like, the way that this flow is presented and the way that the system works, it feels very similar to what we've just been doing inside of the stations. It would not surprise me at all if effectively those UI dialogues are almost just HTML canvases over the top of basically this same narrative engine. And fucking why not? Like, you know, if you've got something that works well and that is actually like integrated into your workflow, continue to use it. So we've got an action counter here on the left. We've got 18 actions remaining, and we're going to get another one in 8 minutes. So this is actually a very kind of old school thing. And in fact, Fallen London is kind of old school. I can remember playing it maybe, well, here we go. 2010 to 2019 is the copyright. So that means it's been around for 9 years at this point. Not many games can claim to have been running for 9 years. And in fact, like as you go through this, so we're now down to 17 actions. We're no longer a new arrival. And here you've got the opportunity to, I think this draws a fate card maybe, or we can actually take one of the many actions that's available. So we don't have these ambitions, which allows us to actually gain an ambition. This kind of counter system is actually fairly fundamental to a lot of kind of the ways that these systems work. So by taking the ambition light fingers, I will actually kind of lock myself out of different pathways, because what it will do is on the back end, it'll log that I now have that counter. And it'll just increment it to 1. And somewhere, for a lot of these, there'll be precondition checks. So it will actually say, hey, this thing here is only valid if you have not got a counter for ambition heart's desire, and you have not got an ambition bagger legend, and you have not got an ambition light fingers, and you have not got an ambition nemesis. And in that scenario, those are the preconditions at which this is actually a valid action for you to take. So you can kind of understand at a high level the kind of logic that kind of goes into this kind of thing. And one of the things that becomes a challenge is, like, as you start to track these kinds of effectively player states, you end up blowing out the number of things that you need to keep track of, and that becomes fairly tricky. So a lot of narrative tooling is kind of around taming that dimensionality, and actually allowing you to kind of weave these together into intricate kind of stories that feel very interactive. I mean, this flow itself, just the way that it's presented, with a sequence of choices like this, and very discrete choice points that are, effectively choose your own adventure, which page you're going to turn to. It's a very kind of, it's more heavy-handed than some. If you think of it like a Mass Effect kind of system, Mass Effect does it more through dialogue choices and through, allowing you to have kind of renegade and paragon moments in pivotal scenes. Whereas this is just like you're constantly faced with choices, and that doesn't necessarily, because of the strangeness of the setting, you don't necessarily always understand what the hell that means. So let's find somewhere to live. Just keep going through. I want to spend the next couple of minutes in finding somewhere to live. Maybe we could charm our way into someone's home. That would be a high risk challenge on persuasiveness, and actually our persuasiveness has a negative penalty right now. So we have this perhaps not dialogue, and again, the perhaps not lines up with how the phrasing is in Sunless Skies. So again, that kind of is suggestive that probably there's the similar engine, if not the same engine, driving this stuff on the back end. But also it speaks to kind of the consistency of kind of how they approach language and terminology and all these kinds of things. Because at the end of the day, those are things that having consistency around, and this, it's part of the strength to me of the Fallen London scenario. So we're probably going to get some exposition around here at some point, but the broad view of Fallen London is that it is a Victorian England and London setting, and kind of London has been somehow consumed by this kind of weird underworld, and kind of that's what there was a reference earlier in something I read about the Neath. So London has kind of been taken underneath and become its own thing, and there needs to be a new sun created, which was a reference that was made in the part of the Sunless Sky stuff. So you've kind of got this really kind of interesting alterniverse that just is. I find it very compelling. So an urchin's hawking for newspapers. So I think we're going to come back to this need for an address at some point, but we're going to need to solve it a different way. And right now, whatever counter we need, we don't currently have, so we need to go do it somewhere else because we're not going to make the roll that we need to make on our persuasion, or it's unlikely we would make the roll that we need to make. So let's try this, an urchin's hawking newspapers. So we could purchase a newspaper, but in order to do that, we would need a penny. We don't have a penny, so that's a problem. Oh, this is interesting. I've never seen this before. This is probably a new feature that they've added in the 7+ years since I stopped playing this. But mark this choice as a plan, I guess, allows you to actually come back to it later and say, actually, this is the one that I'm working towards, but I can't do it right now. So, okay, cool. If we wanted to purchase a newspaper, the goal then becomes like, okay, well, I need to satisfy having a penny, so let me go and figure out how to get a penny. But we don't actually need to do that. We've got shadowy, and we've got watchful. That's probably going to be enough to do this read over someone's shoulder. So we've gained subtle at 1. We are now cautious as a cat. And again, I think partly it's kind of Fallen London is compelling to me because of the way it kind of twists English culture a little bit. And once again, that hallowed season draws near when the university's ivied halls shall echo with the pop of wickets, and fierce old rivals will take up their bats as knights of yore took up their swords to battle upon the grandest of all fields, the field of cricket. Cricket is seen as this very kind of twee traditional sport in the US. But I played cricket quite a bit as a kid. I spent time on the school cricket team, mostly as the scorer for the school cricket team. Scoring for cricket is actually super fucking complicated. There's a lot of different things to keep track of. And it turns out when you get it wrong, most of the cricket team throw cricket bats at your head. And that was how I spent my fucking childhood, which maybe explains some things. So that choice, now that we've read that newspaper, the choice option has gone away. Again, that's probably being done with like this idea of some kind of flag or counter actually tracking that. So we got the season of hobbies. The unsettling toy maker opens a new toy shop in Elderwick. So unlock cricket, anyone. This exceptional story for February 2019. Be sure to play this branch before February 28th when our next exceptional story unlocks. So that's interesting. But unfortunately, I'm not able to go. Maybe I have to browse the toy maker's wares. So I picked up A Tale of Terror. And this is, so we saw earlier the Savage Secrets in Sunless Skies. So the Tale of Terror is that same kind of currency notion around things that are happening in the world. What does that allow you to do? Oh, record this snippet in your journal. Okay. All right. Well, so this is interesting. So you can actually like log specific things into the journal. I don't need to log that. We need to figure out the lodging situation. Probably need to get rid of my prisoners' masks and stuff. This is where I'm getting my persuasive -1 from. I'm wearing shitty clothes. But this is, I referred to this as an MMO. and I believe that's true because I believe that I can actually interact with other players and start to. So if I was a subscriber, I would be able to play the cricket thing. So this is kind of where it becomes a. Excuse me. The free to play, but this is where the in-app purchasing kicks in, and there's a bazaar, so I can sell stuff, and I believe there is a guild system or something, or maybe there used to be. Maybe I could. There's opportunity to send messages. Honestly, I'm not going to be able to get much deeper here than I have done, because I think there's there's 9 years of content effectively. With that said, I hope that this has kind of given you a flavour for both Fallen London, the Fallen London setting, and also Sunless Skies. I actually really enjoyed playing this. Let me pop back to it. This is Sunless Skies. Or I guess this is Sunless Skies. I don't know. I gesture. How do I gesture? Yeah, well, yeah. So, okay, that. Here is Sunless Skies. I've enjoyed playing with this for the last 2 hours. I'm probably going to keep playing it. Like Kufa's saying, it's kind of very similar to Sunless Seas, I think. I think it's probably... The sense that I get from it is that it's a little bit slimlined, just a tiny bit more polished. It's maybe got its core mechanics tightened up just a little bit. So I'm actually feeling really good about how I'm going to spend time with this and kind of how I'm probably going to dig deeper. But from an AI point of view, I think it's interesting to think about how the systems would interplay together, and kind of how that would kind of let's say we wanted to kind of stage manage this a little bit more. What could we do to kind of use AI systems to orchestrate this and to kind of put together some really interesting experiences and almost use the AI system to drive the player in different directions and give them different narrative experiences or compelling narrative experiences. And the possibilities are actually kind of interesting. And I'm not surprised at all. Fail Better Games is kind of very well known for this kind of leading edge of interactive-y, fiction-y type things. So it actually wouldn't surprise me to dig in here and find that there is actually some sophisticated shit happening behind the scenes. But for right now, I am going to quit and I am gonna call it a night. Also interesting on that screen there, as it came up, it was wanting to have me press A to select and B to cancel. Maybe that's going to prove to be a game that's more suited to controller play. In fact, I'm going on the road this weekend, and I'm just looking at the store page because I like this well enough that I would actually... Yeah, there is a Mac version of this game. I'm probably going to install this on my laptop and take this with me with a controller. That's how much I've enjoyed playing it this evening. So, speaking of going on the road, there will be no stream on Sunday. I am looking at houses in Austin, Texas. And as a result, I am not going to be taking 2 hours out of the middle of my day because I need that time for dashing around with my realtor. That's going to be an awful lot of fun for me, probably, maybe, we'll see. I'm going to be sad to be missing a stream, but please come back next Wednesday. I have actually scheduled a whole bunch of social media, so the reminders are going to be going out that, hey, the stream's coming up. So I still cannot figure out how to do this right, and I need to wait while it comes up on the thing. Okay, here we go. Follow us on Twitter @GamingEyeShow. Follow us on Facebook /GameAI Show. And please hit the follow button on Twitch and give us some love. We're still working on getting our Twitch affiliate status. Today's been a really good night. There've been about 10 people watching, whole bunch of people chatting. It's been lovely to hang out with you all. See you next Wednesday. I think I picked out what game I was going to play, and I cannot for the life of me remember. Let me see if I can just jump into the social media management platform that I'm using and see what I said I was going to be playing next week. That's not a hooray for login screens that say they want that make you pick. Oh fuck my life! It's now wanting an account confirmation code. So while I'm figuring this out and figuring out what we're playing next, let me also shout out Deathbow, who was in the chat earlier. We're still working through the music, but Deathbow is the provider of the musical interlude that we're leading into the show with. So there is a verification code has been sent to your registered email address. No, it fucking hasn't. So yeah, shout out to Deathbow for the music. Shout out to Pragmacat for the logo. I'm really loving the new place, the new banner that we've got here. I just love what she's done to adjust the robot overlord and make its arm point in a different direction. That's a level of quality Photoshop work there that I could not fucking do. And of course, shout out to Heather Decker, who is the originator of this logo here, which was the Robot Overlord Games logo from way back in the day. I will see you all next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm not going to find out what game we're playing, but there will be a game. It will be played. It will be awesome. And for those of you who are going to GDC, it looks like I'm going to be giving 4 sessions this year, which is actually my personal, I was going to say best, but I think actually personal worst, maybe. I think it's going to fucking suck, but most of them are actually short form or don't need too much prep. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at GDC next month. It's going to be an absolute blast. So if you're coming out, please make sure to connect with me and give me a heads up. We're going to be hanging out at the AI Summit Monday and Tuesday, and then I'll be around the conference Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as well. So I would love to catch up to people there. But for right now, for tonight, this has been Sunless Skies on the Game AI Show. And thank you very much for your attention for the last nearly 2 hours and 15 minutes. This has been a long one. So thank you for your attention and see you later. And thanks for keeping me company, Koof. It's been good chatting with you. I hope to engage with more people in the chat soon.